Hello everybody, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Trackalicious. I'm Kujaterikov. Tonight we have round 5 of the Wednesday Multiclass Championship in ACC tonight. Around Donington Park. The lesser known British track, but still very famous in its own right. Opened back in the 1930s. Revived in the late 1970s to its current state that it is now. Was home to Formula One for one single year and has hosted the MotoGP over the other British tracks available. But tonight, more importantly, it is host to round number 5 of the the Wednesday Multiclass Championship. Getting all my names mixed up. Let's head to the track and see what the action is all about. We've got qualifying underway in the dark. Cars waiting to get out on track. There is the 20-minute mark. In the first 10 minutes, we will have all of our lovely GT4s out on track. That includes Rally Duchy in the Cusata Racing Academy 621 Ginetta. Back on home soil in the dark, 4 a.m. early rise for the drivers. And lots of action in the chat. Hey, Bales was first. Doc Milwee, let's go racing indeed. Cicerone, good luck and have fun, and good luck, Tezzy. As he just waiting in the pits for the time being in the GT3s as the GT4 field begins their outlaps. So they will have the first 10 minutes of the session to go and set their fastest lap that they possibly can. Diego Mostachero in the 44 Aston, going through turn number 7. And the darkness, the cold, will add another element to warming up the tires and these GT4 cars as best as the drivers possibly can. Ilpo Ruotsalainen rounding out the back of the pack here in the 204. Not pace-wise, just position-wise out on track. Getting the brakes nice and warm, going down the Starkey straight. Professor Chronotis in this little peloton at the front of the field, drifting it out of the first corner, just trying to get as much power down as early as possible. Plunging down the hill before sweeping to the right-hand side. Very quick corner as they get to the bottom of the hill. Swinging corner to the left. Up to a difficult braking zone, which finds them turning immediately back to the right and going up the hill to the awkwardly cambered corner at turn number 8. Very tricky to get the power down, but you need to because it leads you onto one of the longest straights on this twisty track. Just around 2.5 miles long, nice and short and sweet. 12 corners for the drivers to negotiate turn 9 and 10 at the S's there. Professor Chronotis handling it just fine, keeping it within the white lines to put a valid lap on the board. He will have some drivers up in front posting times. We'll have to just wait and see who will come out on top. In these GT4s, we do expect a few minutes of warm-up time, a few laps of warm-up time, I should say, as Alex Freeman goes to the top, Brian DeSantiago second, Rally Duchy third, and Professor Chronotis will split Duchy and DeSantiago for third place. Then you have the Beach GT AMG of Justin Beachley rounding out the final corner. He will look to secure a position on the front row, and he does just so. Goes second quickest, about 4/10 off of the time set by Alex Freeman. Andres Mostachero goes 5th ahead of Rally Duchy and 7/1000ths of a second behind Professor Chronotis. Ilpo Ruotsalainen across the line sets the new provisional pole time. A 1:34.837 is the new time to chase for the GT4 field. And Diego Mostachero, unable to get a valid lap on his first flying lap attempt, will look to get one on the board here as he goes through turn 7, approaching turn 8. Through the chicane. Very tricky to keep it within track limits there. Not a lot of sausage curbs protecting that chicane, as we see a very popular choice around the tracks such as Imola. The insides being very heavily protected. If you go over them, they do throw you off. But at Donington, not the case, as Diego Mostachero goes to the line. For Alex Freeman gets ahead of Ilpo Ruotsalainen for provisional pole, as Diego goes into the top 5 ahead of Professor Chronotis. So after that second loop, Ilpo is the only one remaining for their second run, and he goes to the top, a 34.595, about 2/10ths clear of Alex Freeman's time. Justin Beachley sitting in third. Then you have Brian DeSantiago in the 777 BMW in fourth place, looking for an improvement. 4 minutes left on the clock in qualifying. Not a lot of time on the board. Need to get those laps in right when it matters. So just one hairpin left at turn 12 for the BMW. There's a few cars ahead of him, or just one car. That's Alex Freeman in front. Not on a valid lap, but Brian DeSantiago is. Can he get into third? He does find an improvement on this lap, but needs just a few more tenths to get past the time set by Justin Beachley, who himself is looking for an improvement to try and leapfrog Alex Freeman. Can he do it on this lap as he comes up to the line, not able to get an improvement? Now the 204 Camaro to the line. Does improve the time by about a tenth. Now has nearly 3/10ths of an advantage over his next competitor, Alex Freeman, in the number 14 Aston Martin, who is going through the thirds and final sector now. He will have time to go around once or maybe even twice more after he finishes this flying lap attempt, going through the Melbourne hairpin at turn 11, tight right-hander. Before going into the tight left-hander at Goddard's, and he goes a little bit deep into that corner, but perhaps just setting up a run to the line for his next flying lap attempt. He does get to the line right around the 2-minute mark, so he will have time for 2 more flying lap attempts. So now the Beach GT AMG trying to find any little bit of improvement, and he gets just a slight bit. Needs about 6 further tenths, closer to 7 even, to try and get past Alex Freeman sitting on the front row for the time being. Andres Mostachero kicking up sparks as he goes down the hill through turn 3, now turn 4, before turning back up this little valley at turn 5 and 6. Hard on the brakes, dipping it to the right. Oh, heavily over the curb, but keeping it under control. On 2 wheels was Andres. And a very quick right-hander runs a little bit wide. And that might cost him a crucial few tenths that he needed for this final flying lap attempt. Up in front, the order remains the same. It is Ilpo Ruotsalainen from Alex Freeman, from Justin Beachley, Brian DeSantiago in 4th, Diego Mostachero in 5th, Professor Chronotis 6th, as Justin Beachley returns back to the pit. Same with Rally Dutchy. That is their qualifying session done. 3rd will be the best that the AMG GT, or the AMG of Justin Beachley can do, and Andres Mostachero nearly losing it, or perhaps that was just a controlled maneuver back to the pits, as we have most of the GT4 field already back in the pits. And the GT3s begin to roll out for their, oh my goodness, their warm-up laps. Brian DeSantiago going a little bit wide at turn 8, as Andres Mostachero did on his previous flying lap attempt, and that will be the GT4 qualifying session complete here, as Professor Chronotis and Alex Freeman are both on invalid laps, and that is the Professor taking a very, very adventurous line through the S's, picking up lots of sparks there. But now it is time for the GT3 qualifying session to begin. Remind you of the GT4 order before going to there. We got Ilpo Ruotsalainen holding the top of the GT4 field from Alex Freeman in 2nd place. Justin Beachley in the top 3. Then you have Brian DeSantiago in 4th. Diego Mostachero rounds out the top 5. Professor Chronotis in 6th. Andres Mostachero in 7th. Then you have Rally Dutchy in 8th place. And now the GT3 field begins with Joe Allenson starting his first flying lap attempt in the number 62 BMW. Up the road in the Lexus is Joe Chericola in the JCR. He will be the first to set a flying lap in the GT3 field. We'll see what sort of time they will need to chase, or the rest of the field, I should say, will need to chase after Joe Chericola crosses the start-finish line. Very nicely over the curbing at the S's. Car seems to be well under control. You can see the smoke kicking out of the exhausts on the side. Absolutely beautiful to see here at 4 in the morning around Donington. And with the Lexus just having one braking zone left before setting the provisional benchmark for the rest of the field to chase, unless he ran a little bit wide at the final corner and invalidated it. It looks like he did, so that will unfortunately be Devin Anthony setting the provisional time now. A 1:28.785 is the time to chase. We've got Sahin in 2nd, Joe Allenson in 3rd place. Hezzy Thomas coming up to the line in the Garage 59 Aston Martin. Side exhausts glowing. Front accent lights glowing. An invalid last lap for Hezzy Thomas, so he will have to go around once more. As we have fellow Aston Martin driver Dr. Porkchop coming up to the line, and he will find a valid lap, puts him up on the board in 4th place. Brian Zerline to the line. unable to get a valid lap on the board. And with the yellow flag for Joe Chericola, he will have to slow down, let the rest of the field through. As Devin Anthony will cross the line for his second flying lap attempt. Can he find an improvement to move farther past the Ferrari of Sahin? Up to the line, does not find an improvement on this lap. And neither does Sahin. Joe Allenson, though, does find an improvement as he goes to the top of the GT3 field. The Brian Zerline in the 25 Porsche. Few corners left for him before he tries to get a valid lap on the board. Hezzy Thomas on the board in the 59 Aston Martin in the top 5. Dr. Porkchop gets an improvement coming up to the line. And the Beach GT would like to challenge Ilpo and Freeman for mechanical doping. Brian Zerline goes into the top 5, going past Hezzy Thomas and behind Dr. Porkchop. So now Devin Anthony coming up to the line, looking to take provisional pole back from Joe Allenson. 4 minutes left to go. Not a lot of time left. And not a lot of time is in between the time set by Devin Anthony and Joe Allenson. Half a tenth between the Honda and the BMW at the top. As Joe Allenson is able to improve his time at the top and gets about 3/10 clear of the Honda. And the Lexus of Joe Chericola able to get on the board and in the top 5, but Brian Zerline will look for an improvement to try and bump the Lexus down a position. Needs about a 10th to do just that. Can he find the improvement to the line? He sure can. He finds more than a 10th and gets to within 3/10 of Dr. Porkchop sitting in 4th place. So we have a battle in the top 2. Devin Anthony versus Joe Allenson. Devin Anthony coming up to the line. And he gets provisional pole back. A 28.295 is the time to chase. And Joe Allenson already at the line. Can he get the improvement? He can. Gets about a 10th clear of the Honda. And it is give and take between the two at the top of the GT3 field. With some of the GT3 field in the pits, Joe Chericola looking like his qualifying session just might be done here as he sits in 6th place. Joe Allenson running wide in the BMW after turn 5, looking to get it back on track, and he does. But parking it up and returning to the pits is the BMW. So now Zerline to the line. Can he get the 2/10 to blast past Dr. Porkchop? Not quite able to find it on this lap. Might have time for a second lap after this one, but the time is looking like it is running out for the Porsche. Devin Anthony running a little bit wide on the exit of 11, but able to keep it under control and keeping the power down before going through the final left-hand corner at Donington. Coming up to the line, can he displace Joe Allenson at the top? He can by about 3/10. So the Honda goes to provisional pole with the time in the 27s, a 27.925. Then you've in the top three, you've got Alper Sahin in the number 11 Ferrari. About 7/10 back of the provisional time set by Devin Anthony at the top of the charts. Needs about 5/10 to get past Joe Allenson for a spot on the front row. Dr. Porkchop up to the line, not able to find an improvement. He will go around for one more flying lap attempt. Now, this is Sahin to the line. Does get about 1/10 of an improvement, but still needs just that little bit more to challenge the two drivers on the front row. And now with the time hitting 0, 3 drivers in the pits, 4 out on track. The lead driver being Dr. Porkchop, currently sitting in 4th place. Needs a big improvement if he wants to get past Sahin in 3rd. But he has a pretty decent 3/10 advantage over Brian Zerline behind, who is out on track, trying to get an improvement, but pushing a little bit past the limits and going back to the pits. So can Dr. Porkchop find the pace late in the qualifying session to get on to the front row and challenge Joe Allenson, Devin Anthony, or Sahin right in front of him for position? To the line comes the Aston Martin, and he does find a bit of an improvement, but not enough to improve the position. Now, can Sahin do anything about the front row as he comes to the line and he goes up to the front row in 2nd place? That will move Joe Allenson down to 3rd, and it will be a top 3 battle here around Donington Park in the race. 3 minutes on the clock for the drivers to get their setups loaded, get the tire pressures adjusted to these very hot conditions in the middle of the day around Donington Park. Complete opposite to the night conditions, nice and cool. Now, very hot for the 50-minute race we have ahead of us. Round 5 of the Multiclass Wednesday Championship will get underway once the session start timer ticks to 0. This is the GT4 field. On pole position, you have Ilpo Ruotsalainen in the Creme de la Course 204 Camaro. Starting behind him on the front row will be Alex Freeman in the number 14 AF Sport Aston Martin. Justin Beachley starting from 3rd and complaining about a mechanical advantage for the top 2, looking to use his race pace and get past them in the Beach GT number 18 AMG. Alongside him will be Brian DeSantiago noting the same issue as the Beach man himself. The 777 BMW NPG Racing starts from 4th place. Behind them on the 3rd row will be Diego Mostachero in 5th in the number 44 Naps Team Aston Martin. Professor Chronotis will be alongside him in the T-Swizzalicious number 42 AMG. Andres Mostachero in the 105 Porsche Naps team will start on the 4th row. Rally Dutchy will be behind him in the 621 Kuzata Racing Academy Ginetta. And we had quite a battle for the top spot of the GT3 field, but in the end it went the way of Devin Anthony in the Noobs Are Us 664 Honda. Behind him, taking the spot at the last second, is Alper Ozgur Sahin in the number 11 Ferrari. Joe Allenson, very quick time from him as well to be in third place in the number 62 BMW M Team WRT Good Smile Racing. Alongside him on the second row will be Dr. Porkchop in the 71 Chop Shop Racing Aston Martin. Brian Zerline next in fifth place in the BJ Racing number 25 Porsche. Joe Chericola in the Lexus JCR number 9 starts from 6th place. Then you have Hezzy Thomas in the Garage 59, number 59 Aston Martin starting from 7th place in the GT3 field. Devin Anthony leading the field away for the full formation lap. Getting the tires, the brakes, and of course themselves warmed up for the 50-minute race we have ahead. One mandatory pit stop is necessary for the drivers to take for a mandatory 25-second refuel, and then it is optional for the drivers to add 5 seconds to their pit stop time to take fresh tires, which might come a very hefty advantage, especially in these hot and tricky conditions around Donington. Lots of wear and tear to the left side with the natural clockwise formation or clockwise rotation around the track. The left-hand side will get worked a lot more. Not a lot of straights in between to cool down the brakes and the tires as well. So that will certainly add another element of wear and tear to the cars. This is what the splitter of Alex Freeman's Aston Martin sees ahead of him as the grid begins to line up in zipper formation, lining up 2 by 2, getting ready for the race start. Cicerone predicts chaos on turn 3. Hopefully not. I am hoping for a nice clean getaway, good action from our GT3 and GT4 multi-class race. Just one corner left in the formation lap before the green lights go for round number 5. We'll look on from the helicopter cam as the grid rounds the final corner to the start-finish straight.
Green light, give it all you can.
And there is the green light. The Honda getting a good getaway on the inside. The Ferrari taking it pretty cautiously around the outside. Might allow the BMW to slip through, but not so. Holding position. And on the inside, Brian Zerline looking to take the place from Dr. Porkchop, but the Aston having a pretty good speed advantage coming down the hill. And it looks like they will remain in that order. Brian DeSantiago losing a position, and up ahead, that's the Ferrari. That is Sahin off in the grass, losing second place. As I was saying, Brian DeSantiago finding himself in a Mostachero sandwich here, losing the position to Diego, but he might just get the place back going down the inside of turn 8, and that is the move done, and that's the 62 BMW of Joe Allenson in the gravel.
Pit window is opening.
And there is chaos at the start, at the beginning, or at the front of the GT3 field, I should say. The top 3 are no longer in the top 3 at all. as Devin Anthony has a look down the inside of the Honda to get that final podium position back. He does just that, getting past the Lexus of Joe Chericola. So Brian Zerline leading the race from Dr. Porkchop. Then you have Devin Anthony after starting from pole position. He is back to third. Joe Chericola in fourth. And then you have the GT4 field as high as fifth. Ilpo Ruotsalainen leads them. Justin Beachley was able to get by Alex Freeman at the start of the race, so he will have second place. And so much for those mechanical doping accusations. Justin Beachley getting by Alex Freeman at the start there. Brian DeSantiago getting the position from Diego Mosachero. We saw that move earlier on, and now it is the GT3 field trying to work their way through for the first time, I should say even. These are technically for position, as there was a mistake early on from Sahin in the number 11 Ferrari. Couldn't quite catch what happened there, but I could only presume the top three got completely tangled up as both Sahin and Allenson finding themselves mixed up in this GT4 field. So Devin Anthony able to get past Dr. Porkchop. Joe Chericola trying to do the same around the outside of turn 11. This is where he lost the position to the Honda on the last lap, but looking to gain the position on this lap. And the outside turns to the inside as they head to Goddard's. And now for the inside, the Lexus will look to hang on to the position. The Aston can't quite keep the grip around the outside, and the Aston Martin will have to hold back and drop to fourth place. Devin Anthony, though, challenging for the lead of the race. Brian Zerline hanging on to the lead for 2 laps now, but Devin Anthony looking to get that top spot back after he claimed pole position. Going up the hill to turn 7, very difficult overtaking opportunity. We saw Brian DeSantiago pull off a move here into turn number 8, but Devin Anthony not quite close enough to pull off the move into the quite short braking zone there at turn 8, and will just use the slipstream as best as he can. Brian Zerline, though, pulling away from the racing line, doesn't want to give Devin Anthony any sort of advantage as they head to probably one of the better overtaking opportunities. We've seen Devin Anthony pull off a move here before, as Brian Zerline does go a little bit deep, and that allows Devin Anthony to sweep to the inside, and now they go side by side to turn 12, and in fact the Porsche decides to just pull back and allow Devin Anthony to retake the lead of the race. Now that the GT3 field has more or less worked their way through the GT4 traffic, Brian DeSantiago under pressure from Diego Mostachero, who in turn has Andres behind him, who was able to get past Professor Chronotis for position overall. And they've got Hezzy Thomas there in the 59 Aston Martin, trying to work his way through the GT3 field, or excuse me, the GT4 field in his GT3 Aston Martin. Yeah, I'm not sure if the Ferrari and the BMW spun each other out, because the Ferrari had the contact down the hill at turn 4, and then the 62 BMW was spun out on this turn here at the exit of turn number 7, I do believe, or maybe it was at the exit here of turn number 8. But nonetheless, they were on different parts of the track, so they could have just gotten tangled up with themselves at the beginning and then later on with somebody else. But yeah, I couldn't quite catch what happened there, as Diego Mostachero just not quite close enough to line up the move into the S's. as Sahin works his way back into the top 3, getting past both Dr. Porkchop and Joe Chericola. So the number 11 Ferrari proving that he has some decent race pace, running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 1 though, costing him just a couple of tenths on the exit there. So he will look to use that race pace to close that 4-second gap to second place man Brian Zerline, and then potentially even try and close the gap to the front running Honda of Devin Anthony. So a good bounce back from the Ferrari. Joe Allenson already back through the GT4 field as well in the 62 BMW, has about a 7-second gap to Dr. Porkchop in the top 5 of the GT3 field, as Diego Mostachero still behind Brian DeSantiago. Can't find a move past the BMW for position in the top 5 of the GT4 field. Brian DeSantiago in 4th. Diego Mostachero 5th, trying to keep the grip around the inside of turn 8. Might have a good overspeed run here compared to the BMW, but looking on from the rear wing of the 777, he looks comfortably ahead going into the S's. Oh, and he is sticking his nose down the inside. Brian DeSantiago opening up a slight door for the Aston Martin, and now going into turn number 12. The 777 BMW heavily defending that inside line, and it looks like he's just able to hold on for the meantime, as Diego Mostachero had a sniff of an opportunity there, stuck his nose in at the apex of turn 11, but just couldn't quite keep the momentum. Going into turn 12 and oversteering as he dips a wheel into the grass exiting turn 1. Just behind Diego, you have Andres Mostachero in the 105 Porsche, trying to pull a bit of a gap from the Professor Chronotis in the number 42 AMG just behind him. And in the meanwhile, he also doesn't want to lose the gap in front should any opportunities arise at the front of the field. And so just ahead in the GT3 field, Sahin already on the back of the Porsche number 25 for second place. The Porsche all over the road there, and Sahin trying to go around the outside. Actually, that's the inside. Before the braking zone of turn 7 even, the Ferrari gets the position and now has about five seconds of a gap to Devin Anthony at the front of the field. Crucially, Sahin does have the fastest lap of the race, showing he does have very good race pace to close this gap to Devin Anthony in front. So Joe Allenson in the top 5. Now Joe Chericola slipping back. There might have been a bit of an incident there that we missed for the number 9, for him to drop back that far down the field. He had a pretty slow lap last lap, so perhaps getting caught up in a bit of an incident. So now Joe Allenson has the fastest lap of the race in the 62 BMW. Back in the top 5. Has about a 2-second gap to Dr. Porkchop in front. Yeah, it sure does look that way. Sahin really having the pace in the 296 GT3. Put him behind the wheel of the SF25. Why not? Let's see what happens. The 62 BMW chasing the teal Aston Martin in front, and the red and black GT4 Aston Martin still not giving any breathing room to the 777 BMW of Brian DeSantiago, sitting in 4th place of the GT4 field. Alex Freeman and Justin Beachley getting pretty close to each other out on track here in the top 2, as there is a change for position. Joe Allenson getting the position past Dr. Porkchop. Let's see how he got the move done. So going into turn 11, all is well here, still keeping the BMW behind. Oh, and he just runs way too deep in the braking zone of turn 12, and that allows the BMW to slip on through. So that's now Joe Allenson in the top 4. 3.6 second gap between him and Brian Zerline for the final podium position on offer. And now the fastest lap of the race going back into the hands of Sahin in 2nd place. And here we go, back to the battle between Mostachero and Brian DeSantiago. And taking very different lines through turn 8. But the BMW still holding position. Professor Chronotis able to get past Andres Mostachero for 6th place in the GT4 field, and now he will look to close down the gap to this battling duo for 4th and 5th place. You can see the plane landing in the background there. Donington Park, not too far from the airport, as Brian DeSantiago goes way too deep into turn number 11, trying to defend the position, but he will sweep to the inside of the braking zone at turn 12 and fight back for the position. Diego Mostachero, though, around the outside, trying to keep the grip, and all the meanwhile, while they're battling, Professor Chronotis and Andres Mostachero closing the gap, but Diego Mostachero down the inside of turn 1, still side by side between these two, for a spot in the top 4. Now back down the hill. Can they really go side by side? Brian DeSantiago slots back in front and defends his position through the entire final sector. After running deep into turn 11, they were side by side for pretty much 3 full corners there. Great racing here between the two of them, as once again Diego Mostachero forcing himself to the inside line. This battle has been raging on for about 15 minutes now, and I have a feeling it's not going to die down anytime soon, especially with the 42 AMG now pretty much within a few cars' length of Diego Mostachero. This is what the battle looks like in front from the view of the professor. Brian DeSantiago once again running a little bit deep into turn 11. Perhaps that's just his usual line, but that is allowing Diego Mostachero just about to slip his nose down the inside, which is once again forcing Brian DeSantiago to cover down the inside of turn 12, which is really slowing these two down compared to the Professor behind. Two cars in front running in the mid 37s. Professor Chronotis doing a 36.8 on the last lap, and they're side by side going down the hill. Diego Mostachero sweeps through and gets 4th place. Fantastic move set up by the Aston Martin for about 17 minutes now. Brian DeSantiago pushing the BMW past the limits of the track onto the grass and oversteering at the exit of turn 4. And now can Professor Chronotis find a way past the BMW, perhaps a little bit more quickly than the 17 and a bit minutes it took for Diego Mostachero to find that move. Patience has certainly paid off for the Aston Martin driver. Now will look to use the clean air in front to build the gap to the BMW, who once again really pushing the limits. Runs wide on the exit of the S's, and Professor Chronotis just tucking in, but once again the BMW going a little bit deep at turn 11 allows the AMG to sniff an opportunity down the inside, and the 777 covering off the inside line once again, but going a little bit deep. Will this allow the switchback for Professor Chronotis? They're side by side down the main straight into turn number 1. The BMW has the inside line, looking to defend a position in the top 5. The 42 trying to keep the grip around the outside, and a little bit wiggly on the exit, but he did have the grip to keep it side by side, and they're still going side by side down the hill through turn 2. Now turn 3, the braking zone at turn 4. The 777 has the inside. The 42 looking for the switchback. They're once again going side by side now up the hill through turn 5. The 777 BMW on the inside for now, but the inside will quickly become the outside as the 42 goes to the inside and takes 5th place away. The 777 tried to line the switch back up, but the 42 was not having it. And once again, going through turn 8, the 777 trying to get the position on the 42. That is the GT3 leader, Devin Anthony, working his way through this battling duo for that last spot in the top 5. Absolutely great racing between the GT4s this evening. Side by side through pretty much every corner on the track. So Devin Anthony still remains in the lead of the race from Sahin. That gap has grown a considerable amount, and in fact Sahin goes into the pits. Are you drunk, or are you seeing two Mostacheros? Well, my friend, two things can be true at once. But yes, there are in fact two Mostacheros. There is Diego Mostachero in the number 44 Aston Martin, and Andres Mostachero in the 105 Porsche. So as I was saying, Sahin in the pits from second place in the GT3 field, Joe Allenson, Brian Zerline, and Dr. Porkchop finding their way past Sahin as Joe Chericola goes into the pits as well, right around the 30-minute mark, or the 20-minute mark elapsed of the race. We have about 30 minutes still to go, with Devin Anthony having a comfortable lead over Joe Allenson, as does Ilpo Ruotsalainen in the lead of the GT4 race. He has about a 13-second advantage over Justin Beachley in second place, who was able to get that position from Alex Freeman. but Alex Freeman hanging on to the bumper of the AMG in front. Oh, well, thanks, Shadow Racing. That certainly wasn't me, but I wish that was. That would have been a real fun moment to watch live and experience that super tight battle for the last lap, for the lead of the race. After what was a tight battle between Corvette and Porsche, led to a pretty big accident at the end there. Dr. Porkchop in the pits as well, from 4th place in the GT3 field. And there is race leader Devin Anthony working his way through these two GT4 cars. Approaching the S is very difficult to get the overlap through that braking zone, as the 664 Honda goes to the inside. But at the same time, Justin Beachley doesn't want to slow down too much because Alex Freeman is right there behind him, applying the pressure. And just a few corners back, a 777 BMW of Brian DeSantiago not giving any breathing room to Professor Chronotis in their battle for the last spot in the top 5 of the GT4 field. It is a nearly bumper to bumper between the AMG and the BMW as they go down the hill to begin their 14th lap of the race. Justin Beachley in the pits from 2nd place. Oh my goodness. Brian DeSantiago catching the car once again, exiting turn 4. My goodness me, how many moments like that can the heart take from Brian DeSantiago? But I bet he is cool as a cucumber behind his sim rig, pushing on, trying to maintain this tight gap between him and Professor Chronotis. Now you have Brian Zerline working his way through the field. And once again, a hair-raising moment for Brian DeSantiago with the 25 Porsche trying to close that distance in the back straight. Yeah, it does end up using a lot of grass, slowing him down a little bit. But it looks like that's just how the BMW likes to be driven. Nearly had to look up the inside of turn 11. That is Zerline diving into the pits from 3rd place overall. You have the 204 Camaro in the pit lane as well from the lead of the GT4s. And the field will get pretty jumbled up during this pit stop phase. But still, the battle continues for that last spot in the top 5. Once again, DeSantiago running onto the grass, but not quite as sideways as he was on the last lap. Rally Dutchy in the pits in the 621 Ginetta. About half of the field completing their pit stops, about half still yet to do so. You've got Devin Anthony in the lead after completing 16 laps so far in the GT3s. He did start from pole, lost it on lap 1, but was able to claw it back pretty quickly at the start of the race and hasn't looked back since. It has been the same story with Sahin and Joe Allenson dropping from the top 3 in the early stages of the race, but using their race pace to claw some positions back. Sahin with the fastest lap of the race. And he has crucially completed a pit stop, and now Joe Allenson is in the pits. So it'll be very interesting to see where they come out, and both DeSantiago and Professor Chronotis go into the pits at the same time. So this is now a battle of the pit crew. Or perhaps even strategy. Will one of these drivers risk it on the same tire set and not take any fuel? And there you see Joe Allenson in the pits as well, just behind the 777 BMW who just pulled up. And we will wait to see where Sahin will cross, and Sahin does cross ahead of Joe Allenson. And so Sahin will take second place back from the BMW. Where will Joe Allenson come out? It looks like he was able to keep the position ahead of the 25 Porsche. So the final podium position does go to the 62 BMW. Very unusual to see Alex Freeman go this deep into the race without completing a pit stop. He is usually the king of the undercut. Like to see him come in pretty early, right around the 10-minute mark of the race, and just use his pace in the clean air. But it has been the opposite story tonight for Alex Freeman. He is the one electing to go long. So after the pit stop, Brian DeSantiago maintains the same gap to Professor Chronotis for the time being, and Sahin is back in the pits. What is going on there? Unfortunately for Alper Sahin, he has already completed the one mandatory pit stop, and he is back in the pit lane once more. That will allow Joe Allenson to sneak on to the second step of the podium. Devin Anthony now finally in the pits from the lead of the race after completing 19 laps. Diego and Andres Mostachero both still out on track, as well as Alex Freeman in the lead of the GT4s. Stop and go. I don't remember seeing a penalty come up next to his name. It's very possible I could have missed it. But if he would have gotten a stop go, that would have been for speeding in the pits. And he would have had to serve that pretty immediately after exiting the pit lane. So perhaps just a miscalculation on the fuel from Sahin. Maybe a bit of a moment we didn't see as well from the number 11 Ferrari. But nonetheless, that is a very unfortunate incident there for Alper Ozgur Sahin. So now Alex Freeman in the pits. Or no, excuse me, that was not Alex Freeman. That was Diego Mostachero in the 44, not the 14 Aston Martin GT4, going into the pits from second place in the GT4s. It will be very interesting to see where Diego comes out relative to Professor Chronotis and Brian DeSantiago. Was he able to use his pace effectively to come into the pits? And now out on track he goes, and he is comfortably ahead of both the 42 and the 777. Yeah, according to my little broadcasting app here, there was no stop-go penalty for Sahin. So I think that was just a stop that Sahin just had to make due to one reason or another. So now Alex Freeman is in the pits. He was battling with Justin Beachley before the pit stop phase. And with a little bit of clean air in front, was the number 14 Aston Martin able to use the race pace to find the place, or the position I should say, past Justin Beachley, as Justin Beachley has one corner left to go. Alex Freeman is still in the pit lane, waiting for his car to get serviced. Bathroom stop could be, very possible. You never know. So now Alex Freeman out of the pits. He does come out ahead of Justin Beachley, so that is the overcut done by Alex Freeman. Huh. Who knew? Who would have thought the undercut king would have performed the overcut of round number 5? So now he is pretty comfortably ahead of Justin Beachley. Around 7 seconds is the gap between second and third in the GT4 field. Andres Mostachero was the final driver to serve his pit stop. And so now all of the 15 runners have come into the pits for their mandatory pit stop. So now it is just hard racing all the way to the end. That is Dr. Porkchop getting close to Brian Zerline. This has now turned into a battle for the final step of the podium, with the misfortune that has happened to Sahin in his first race here, I believe, in the Wednesday Multiclass Championship. But still showing that he has the race pace with the new fastest lap of the race, a 28.447 on his last go around for the number 11 Ferrari. But as I was saying, with that misfortune to the number 11, this has brought some fortune to Zerline and Dr. Porkchop, who are now battling it out for that final step of the podium in tonight's race. Oh, and that is the overlapping traffic from the GT3s to Hezzy Thomas. And that is Dr. Porkchop going through the 59 Aston Martin, but the gap increasing a little bit. Oh, and a little bit of contact between the 59 and the 71. That is Hezzy Thomas going into Dr. Porkchop there. Perhaps a little bit of rear end damage as well now will hinder the progress of the 71 in his chase for that final podium position. And now in the closing 15 minutes of the race, can Dr. Porkchop use the pace of his slightly damaged Aston Martin to close down to Brian Zerline in front and potentially take that final podium position away? Brian DeSantiago still kicking up dust as he exits the corners there in the 777 BMW, but still within touching distance of the 42 AMG in front for that final top 5 position in the GT4s. These two finding themselves in a pretty good gap in front and behind. So this will be a good clean battle all the way to the end between BMW and Mercedes, the two German manufacturers being represented here, as well as the Porsche, the 105 of Andres Mostachero. No Audi on the grid this evening, though. Just missing that mark from the German manufacturers. We got a prediction that Porkchop is going to be getting that third place. You can see that gap right around 2.4 seconds between him and Brian Zerline for third place. And there we can see the gap. The blue Porsche is his target. That is Ilpo Ruotsalainen in the 204 Camaro in the lead of the GT4s. Oh, and a bit heavy onto the curbs, bouncing the car as he exits the final corner. But not looking like it cost him too much time, as he now tries to work his way through the GT4 car of Ilpo Ruotsalainen. And very easily done there, down the hill through turn 3 into the braking zone of turn 4, down a few gears, sweeping to the right, and now he is locked on to the target in front. Brian Zerline, 2.1 seconds, closing the gap by a few tenths through this first sector. And now looking to use the pace of the Aston Martin to close the gap to the Porsche in front. So with this battle potentially picking up here in the closing 10 to 11 minutes of the race, Justin Beachley has also closed down the gap pretty well to Alex Freeman. It was around 7 seconds after the pit stop. Now it is down to 3. So can Justin Beachley find that late pace in the AMG to find his way past Alex Freeman for second place in the GT4s? And looking at some of these pit stop times, there are some differing strategies in the GT4. Some drivers having pit stops less than 30 seconds, meaning that they did not take new tires. And so we will have to just wait and see if that works out in anyone's advantage. The GT3 field, all looking like they have taken new tires. Joe Allenson, fastest lap of the race, a 28.195 on his last go around, his 26th racing lap. So still keeping concentration after 40 minutes of racing to pound in those quick laps. At the end, has a pretty sizable 12-second gap to close to Devin Anthony for the lead of the GT3s, but nonetheless having the fastest lap of the race, certainly a morale boost. Oh! How about that? Brian DeSantiago getting past the 42 of Professor Chronotis. It looks like the professor had a bit of a slow lap on the last lap, and that allowed Brian DeSantiago to take advantage and take the position, and Porkchop dropped to about 3 seconds, so perhaps a bit of overlapping GT4 traffic getting in the way of the 71 AMG as Brian DeSantiago once again taking the wide line through these corners, and that is Joe Allenson in the 62 BMW trying to work his way through these GT4 cars. Brian DeSantiago taking the wide entrance into the corner, trying to keep the speed going down the hill. And it looks like that is just the BMW line to go a little bit wide and kick up a bit of dust, as both Joe Allenson and Brian DeSantiago doing the same. And now exiting turn 4, this is where we've seen Brian DeSantiago have to take a bit of caution after kicking a wheel on the grass and drifting it through there on a number of occasions, running once again a little bit wide into turn 7, just allowing the 42 to slip his nose down the inside. And this is going to be some good side-by-side action as they exit turn 8 and they go down to the S's. Will it be Brian DeSantiago? He has the race pace, or excuse me, just the pace in the car to get ahead in the straight, but dipping a wheel in the gravel on the inside of turn 10, that'll slow him down, and that is the Lexus of Joe Chericola trying to split the two, and that is the 42 getting by as Brian DeSantiago decides to just linger back, and there is Joe Chericola running a little bit wide on the exit of 11, just slowing down the 42 to potentially allow Brian DeSantiago a move down the inside, but the 42 of Professor Chronotis able to get the position back after the 777 dipping a wheel into the grass, or into the gravel at turn 10. But Brian DeSantiago is not giving it up easily, still maintaining right on the bumper of the AMG in front, and now that he is behind, he can push a little bit more through turn 4 to try and get that place back. And now it looks like he has the grip around the inside, forcing Professor Chronotis to the inside line. And now can the 777 find the grip around the outside? We've seen it on the previous lap where the 777 had the straight line speed advantage, but the 42 covering off the overrun that Brian DeSantiago may have had, but taking the defensive line into turn number 9. And it is still the same positions locked in, but the 42 once again taking to the inside at turn 11. But the BMW knows how to take the outside line as he tries to go outside to in, but just not quite close enough to make that overtaking advantage stick there. And into turn 12, once again looking to get the over-under and get the straight line speed down the main straight into turn 1. Just not looking like that gap getting any closer with the different racing lines being taken. It is so hard to tune away from this battle. I could have just left an onboard of Brian DeSantiago's race, and that could have been entertainment enough. As he has battled with both Professor Chronotis and Diego Mostachero at the beginning of the race. And so certainly an eventful one for the BMW, and it is not over yet. With less than 5 minutes on the clock, the 777 having a look down the inside of turn number 8. Tried to have the look, but not quite close enough on this go around. Quick update around Brian Zerline maintains his gap over Dr. Porkchop. It is right around 3.5 seconds for that final podium position in the GT3s. The gap between Alex Freeman and Justin Beachley closed up a pretty considerable amount. There you see the Cat AMG of Justin Beachley getting closer and closer to the Aston Martin of Alex Freeman in the closing 4 minutes of the race. But it is all eyes on this battle between the 777 BMW and the 42 AMG of Professor Chronotis for this final top 5 position in the GT4s. Andres Mostachero isn't too far off in the distance in the 105 Porsche either. Just trying to stick as close as possible to these two drivers battling for what has felt like a whole 30 minutes so far. After the pit stop, the gap opened up just a touch between the BMW and the Mercedes, but it has closed right down, and it could really go either driver's way come the checkered flag. Thanks for the follow. Hope you're enjoying the racing this evening in the Multiclass League at ACC. And if you want to see yourself and be a part of the action, !SimGrid will take you to a page to get signed up for this and any championships that Tracklicious hosts, as Brian DeSantiago had a good overlap there as he looks to carry the speed out of the S's. He has the inside going into turn 11, and is this the move he's been waiting to line up? And it looks like the 42 has a good amount of speed and grip around the outside, forcing the 777 very slowly around the inside. And now coming up to turn 12, the 42 will have the inside. Can Brian DeSantiago pull off some racecraft here? The 42 running a little bit deep. This will allow the over-under for Brian DeSantiago. They're once again side by side down the main straight. Professor Chronotis down the inside of turn 1. Can he keep the line? The 777 trying to find the grip around the outside, but the Professor forcing the BMW over the curbs and onto the grass, and he will keep 5th place. Oh, and there was a change for 2nd place. Justin Beachley did get past Alex Freeman for 2nd place in the GT4s.
Okay, the leader is on the final lap down. Give it all you can.
So there is Brian Zerline in the 25 blue Porsche in the GT3, working his way through the GT4 traffic. Professor Chronotis getting very under pressure from the 777 BMW of Brian DeSantiago. There you heard it. Leader is on the final lap. So after these two cross the line, there will be just another 2.5 miles, 12 corners for them to duke it out for position. With Brian Zerline there, trying to get the position and not get involved in the battle in any shape or form in the GT3. At the same time, has to worry about Dr. Porkchop not too far off in the distance as well. But the gap opening up a little bit between Brian DeSantiago and Dr. Porkchop going into turn number 1. It was an up and down start from Devin Anthony, but he will finish on a high note in the Noobs R Us 664 Honda. 1 corner to go before he sees the checkered flag from the front of the field, taking the race win. Devin Anthony, round 5 goes to you. Ilpo Rutsalainen across the line to take the lead of the GT4s, took pole position and never looked back. Joe Allenson in the background there, crashing into the pit wall, takes 2nd place with the fastest lap of the race under his name as well. Brian DeSantiago just falling back behind. Doesn't look like he will be able to close the gap. Justin Beachley takes 2nd place in the GT4s in the number 18 Beach GT AMG. Next will be Alex Freeman in third place in the AF Sport. Not able to hold on to second, but rounding out the podium in the GT4s. Diego Mostachero across the line in fourth after his great battle with Brian DeSantiago in the early stages of the race. Took fourth place and never looked back. Brian Zerline, congratulations on the podium finish in third place in the GT3s. Dr. Porkchop gave him a good run for his money across the line in fourth. Professor Chronotis and Brian DeSantiago finishing their battle in the gravel trap at turn 1. Professor Chronotis holding on to the 5th place. Brian DeSantiago in 6th. Andres Mostachero in 7th. Rally Duchy in 8th place across the line. And last but not least, Sahin across the line in 5th place after starting from 2nd, having to take a second pit stop there. And a good recovery from Sahin, finishing in the top 5. As always, we'd love to invite our podium sitters to the green room for a quick chat of how their race went. Great race indeed. Next week, you're back, Cicerone. Thank goodness for that. Taking a week off, but perhaps just using it as a bit of a period to get some more practice in. We've got Justin Beachley and Devin Anthony. Hello, gentlemen. Welcome to the stream. Brian Zerline, welcome as well, my friend. How did it go? How was it out there? How did it feel around the night conditions in qualifying and then going into the heat of the day there during the race? Hello? Hello?
Well, I can speak for the GT4s.
Sure, yeah, we'll start with you, Justin.
Yeah, it was I mean, definitely different. I only practiced, the daytime because I was the practice server set for the race conditions. So it was a bit of a different animal. And then when I see Ilpo and Freeman almost a second ahead of me, I'm like, oh, well, that didn't end well. But, I knew I had pretty decent race pace, just the setup was feeling good in race mode. So, I wasn't too worried about qualifying. My qualifying has not been the strongest this season anyway, so it was nice to at least have some decent race pace out there.
Yeah, it seemed like you were able to claw back that position from Alex Freeman at the end. We didn't see the overtake. Talk us through what happened there.
He was about a second behind me when I stopped. I think he may not have taken tires because he was about 5 seconds ahead of me.
Yeah, it looked like it from the data I had on the broadcasting app. Yeah.
Yeah, once everything cycled through, he's about 5 seconds ahead. So I was like, well, I think he did the exact same thing last week. So I was like, you know what, we're just going to do it. I had pressure loss on the right side. So I was like, let's see what happens. And put in some consistently, decent laps after the pit stop. So I was able to reel him in and caught him on the final corner and then passed him around the outside of T1 with about 2 or 3 laps to go. And I think his tires may have just fallen off completely because he ended up finishing almost 10 seconds behind me. So, he put up pretty good defense. I knew it was going to be a difficult overtake, but I think he might have overshot the final corner a little bit. And then I was able to get on the inside and had enough corner speed through T1 to get around. And that was that.
Yeah. Didn't quite catch it on there, but yeah, from the timings, it looked like Alex Freeman was beginning to have those times drop back a little bit after not taking the new tires. And Alex is in the green room, actually. Let's talk to the man himself about that. Alex, hello. We were just talking about you behind your back. Just kidding. We were only saying nice things. I was just curious about how those tires were feeling at the end of the race.
Honestly, the tires felt good. It was the fuel that I messed up on. Usually I'm good about getting just the right amount or having some excess, but somehow I ended up with like 1 or 2 liters short, so I had to do some massive lift and coast on the last 4 laps.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like you had the gap pretty well managed to Justin with the new tires on. But yeah, just kind of falling back at the end there. And so, yeah, just a bit of a fuel miscalculation, but still able to hold on to that final podium position.
Oh, barely. I was sweating a little bit.
Yeah, it seemed pretty close coming up to the line there. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, the tires felt good. I was actually, I was honestly just comfortable riding behind Beachley for the first stint. I know Donington can be a little bit tough on tires. I've done some of the Sunday GT3 races, like the 90-minute races, and I know it's easy to start getting pressure loss. So I was really kind of just taking it easy the first half of the race to save the tires.
Yeah, especially in those hot conditions. It changed from the night to the day, and the temperatures ramped right up. So I was kind of worried about how the tires were going to last as well, especially with some of the people like yourself, Alex, not taking new tires.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've kind of planned for it. And also Donington's one of those tracks that, track position is key. So kind of going into the race, not taking tires was sort of the strategy.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it was a little bit of a different perspective from your usual kind of strategy of going into the box in the first 10 minutes and pulling off the massive undercut. You kind of went a little bit longer today.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we had kind of a smaller grid tonight. So after Beachley pitted, I had some clean track, and I just thought might as well keep going a few more laps.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, congrats to you two finishing it out on the podium, second and third place. And now,
thank you, and congrats to Justin on the P2. It's a fun battle.
What was that?
I was just congratulating you on the P2. It was a good battle.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's definitely a very enjoyable race for me. So,
yeah, looking forward to what happens in the remaining 2 rounds we have left. We'll move you guys back to the green room real quick, and we'll chat to our GT3 podium sitters. We've got Brian's Airline and Devin. Anthony, how are you two doing tonight?
Good. A little tired now, but good.
A little tired, but yeah. Good. Yeah, Brian on the podium here.
Yeah. Real surprised after lap 1 to be leading the race. Never expected that. And I've been on this thing in like 11 days, so.
Yeah, it certainly got a bit jumbled up at the beginning there. Couldn't quite pick up on the cameras. Maybe, Devin, you can talk us through about what happened from your perspective. It looked like you had the lead going into turn 1 and down the hill, and then kind of dropped back into the mid-pack there.
Yeah, someone tried to send it on like turn 4. After going down the hill there. So yeah, I had to go wide into the grass. Lost some spots because of that, but overall it was good. I had the pace it shows. The only person I was a little worried about was Saheen, number 11. But something happened to him because he pit again.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened there, but yeah, unfortunately for the Ferrari, had to come in for a second stop. But after, you kind of clawed your way back to that top spot in the first 10 minutes and kind of didn't really look back after that.
Yeah, and originally I wasn't going to take tires because, I was worried about him catching up. But I accidentally forgot to turn it off.
Well, it ended up kind of working out pretty well in your favor at the end there, yeah. And then, Brian, at the end there, it looked like Dr. Porkchop was kind of closing in. Were you ever worried about the Aston Martin getting your podium position?
Absolutely, I was. I've had some good battles with Dr. Porkchop. This is my first season with Trackalicious, and I think he and I are probably closest matched. Unfortunately, my teammate Jim was out tonight. Usually he would have finished ahead of me, but I feel lucky to be up here. And Dr. Porkchop I have a lot of fun with him every time we race. So I was definitely worried about that and really worried about lap traffic getting through. So hope I wasn't too pushy with him, but I didn't want to lose the race due to that.
Oh, 100%. That's the nature of the multi-class. Sometimes it gives and sometimes it takes. It might take away from you in one spot, but then it might take away from your competitor in a different spot as well. But yeah, in the end, it kind of just works out. You kind of got to be a little bit patient, know the right spots to work your way through. And it looks like both of you were able to do just that, finishing out on the podium here in round 5. 2 races to go. What are you two looking forward to? We'll start with you, Devin.
Another win.
Another win. Heck yeah. I like to hear it. Nice, short and sweet. We'll take it to you, Brian.
Yeah, I'm just, my goals are top 5, it looks like, this season. So I'll come back to reality next race probably and try and stay out of Devin's way.
There you go. Yeah, a little bit of a short and sweet grid, but certainly providing the action despite there being a limited number of cars. Thank you both for joining us for a quick chat, and congratulations for those podium finishes.
Thank you so much.
Move you guys on back here to the green room, and that will bring us to the end of round number 5 in the Wednesday Multiclass Championship. We're going to get ourselves a lovely raid set up of another sim racing community. Make sure to stick around and tell them Trackalicious sent you. And as always, make sure to spread the love from one sim racing community to another. Great race indeed. And if you liked that one, there is plenty more on offer from Trackalicious. Tomorrow in iRacing, we've got the LMP2 and GT3 Multiclass Championship. And there will be a soon-to-be-announced championship on Fridays. So stick around and pay attention to the Discord for the announcement of that championship. On Mondays, we have our GT4 rookies in ACC. 2 races remain in that absolutely epic championship. 8 20-minute races have had 7 different race winners, 10 different podium sitters. So that championship is going to go absolutely down to the wire. And then on Tuesdays, we have the last round of the LMU championship next week, before I am sure there will be another one set up for the coming season. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We couldn't do without you guys watching and racing with us here at Trackalicious. And thank you all for letting us being able to put on a show for you. We will catch you guys next time. Stay safe out there. Stick around for the raid. We will see you next time.